Long ago, when the earth was much younger, there were light and air, land and water, and above all, movement. Masses of land, shorelines and outlines we would not recognize today, all moved, floating atop the earth's liquid interior. Collisions occurred. Rock met rock, pushing and yielding, pushing again over the course of thousands, even millions of years, with unimaginable force, creating massive wrinkles in the forming landscape. And then came water and ice, and the movement of the land and the ice and the water shaped the face of this planet, making way for life of all kinds, creating rivers, fertile fields, lakes, shorelines, and mountains. Mountains that pierce the skies, reaching into the heavens, forever places of mystery, of conquest, of solitude, of breathtaking beauty. The movement of the earth, the sculpting of ice, the passage of time created the mountain we now consider. But ultimately, it would take the wisdom and generosity of a man to honor and preserve that mountain. That mountain, Katahdin, the mountain of the people. I'm Jack Perkins. Thinking of how often in the past we have been blessed by people in their richly paneled dens who thought not of themselves, but of us, who contrived to protect not their wealth, but glorious precincts of nature, who sought to be not titans, but stewards. Well, there's no better example of this than the story of Katahdin. Katahdin. We are told that a person cannot move a mountain, but a mountain can move a person. To some, Katahdin is a beginning, an inspiration for painters, explorers, sportsmen, photographers, environmentalists, hikers, even politicians. It is a place where, through devotion or nature or mystery, new ideas and new perspectives can be discovered. To the Native Americans who revered the lands of Maine as their ancestral home, Katahdin is a holy place, a constant in their tribal histories, the center of legends, a place held close to their hearts. But if to some Katahdin is a beginning, to others it is an ending. It is the culmination of the Appalachian Trail, that more than 2,000-mile hike from Springer Mountain, Georgia, to the top of the world in Maine. Katahdin has been many things: a place of commerce, of controversy, of recreation, of spiritual renewal. Let us begin with its birth. The Appalachian mountain chain of which Katahdin is a part was first formed millions of years ago when pieces of the Earth's crust seized violently against one another. Africa bumped into North America one day in geologic terms, that is, and with a huge geomorphic nudge, the shaping of our east coast was begun. Thousands more years would pass, before the shapes we see today would become visible, because it took glaciers, tremendous moving tongues of ice, rubble, and rock scouring the landscape, erasing and rebuilding the land, finally to carve out the distinctive character of the landscape. The glaciers, scraping down into North America from the Arctic, pushed and gouged away the relatively softer lands, but even the glaciers could not move the strongest mountains. And even though Katahdin is part of the Appalachians, it stands seemingly apart. The ice of ages past took a path of least resistance and moved around the Appalachian Monadnock, a great isolated hill of nearly immovable bedrock, leaving Katahdin to stand tall and proud and elegantly alone. Katahdin reaches an impressive 5,269 feet into the clouds. It is the highest point in the state of Maine and towers above the surrounding peaks and ridges. In more ways than one, Katahdin casts a long shadow. Perhaps this is why the Native Americans of this land came to call the mountain Katahdin, or Greatest Mountain. And perhaps it is why it was most natural to assume that this majestic and beautiful place was made for the gods.
Finding they could no longer meet in secret, the spirits appealed to the great chief for a new council circle where they could gather in privacy. Their wish was granted. At first, there was only a low grumble as the ground moved slowly beneath them. Then, in the distance, a great mound of earth began to rise before them. As it rose higher and higher, tons of granite chipped from its sides rained down, deluging the earth's surface. Enormous boulders lay as they fell on the sides of the mountain, leaning uncertainly against each other. Cascading down the mountain, two crystal streams of water, blue as ice, roared through the gullies. As the clouds drew together, there appeared before them a magnificent figure. Towering above them all, he was of majestic height and noble stature, with a bow in his hand, and slung over his shoulder a quiver of arrows. He walked toward them with a natural grace. Suddenly, in deep, rumbling tones, he spoke. "I am the spirit of Katahdin."
According to native legends, Katahdin was the home of Pamola, a supreme being of tremendous power. It was the seasonal home of the gods of the four winds, Kabayan, Shawandasi, Kabinonka, and Waban. To the Penobscot Indians, the spirit of Katahdin was once of man, but Pamola was a god entirely different in temperament and form.
Pamola was ugly to look upon, with a head and face as large as 4 horses and shaped like that of a man. His body, form, and feet were those of an eagle, and his strength was such that he could take up a moose with one of his arrow-like claws.
With two such formidable forces sharing just one mountain, according to native legend, Katahdin was not always a quiet place.
The spirit of Katahdin had had enough of Pamola's tantrums for one day. Rising to his full majestic height and pointing in the direction of Pamola's last destruction, the spirit of Katahdin brought his finger to focus on one high peak. In clear, commanding tones, he said, "It is decreed that on days when the council fire is lit, you are to stay within the confines of that peak, which will forevermore be your home and will bear your name, Pamola Peak."
These were spirits of great personality, sometimes even human in their whims, ever present in the lives of the native people. The spirits still loom large in this place, forbidding to some, fascinating to others. Henry David Thoreau left Concord, Massachusetts in 1846. He proposed to make an excursion to Mount Katahdin, and as he began to record his journey of that trip, he considered not only the people he would see on the journey, but also what might be less visible.
The tops of mountains are among the unfinished parts of the globe. whither it is a slight insult to the gods to climb and pry into their secrets and to try to effect on our humanity. Only daring and insolent men, perchance, go there. Pomola is always angry with those who climb to the summit of Katahdin.
The spirits remain with Katahdin even today, in the rocks and the wind and the water, their visage in nature's mirror. Katahdin's rocky face shows through the pines, cedars, maples, shrubs, and grasses. It is surrounded by the more than 200,000 acres of Maine's Baxter State Park. It is the highest point in Piscataquis County, the highest point in all of Maine. Katahdin is a goal and a spirit, a resource. It is rock and forest and earth and water, and it has a life of its own. The seat of the gods, the stuff of legends, an endless source of artistic inspiration, a place of sanctuary, and a place of commerce. The first Europeans arrived in New England in the early 1500s, bringing with them European ideas of society and economics. But these first official explorers were most certainly preceded by fishermen and sailors whose experiences were recorded only in ships' logs. They only made it as far as the Gulf of Maine, and the first generations of European settlement were spent along the coast. It took hundreds of years before the European settlers ventured north and west from the Atlantic. 1604, Samuel de Champlain first ventured up the Penobscot River. It would still be centuries before any significant European settlement took hold along these upriver shores. It was the railroad that brought it there. In 1892, the Bangor and Aroostook first chugged up its branch line from Old Town to Holton, and a couple of enterprising men saw possibility in the lands along Millinocket Stream. A lumber mill. They mustered resources, and in 1899 the Maine legislature created the Great Northern Paper Company. The railroad had to catch up to commerce, and the Bangor and Aroostook ran a spur to the site of the mill. Just 1 year later, there were more than 2,000 residents in the area. What was once a remote wilderness almost overnight became an entire industrial city, complete with utilities, libraries, businesses, and of course people. On March 16, 1901, Millinocket became the 467th town in the state, at the feet of the mountain. If there was one thing that Maine had along the shores of the Penobscot and into the northern hills upriver, it was trees, and the right kind of trees. Spruce and poplar, cedar and pine, Maine supplied much of our rapidly growing nation with wood, lumber and timbers, barrel staves, wood for ships, and for paper. The making of paper is quite simple, really. The right mix of fiber and water. In this country, most paper was made from rags. It wasn't until after the Civil War, when paper demand ran high and rag supplies ran low, that manufacturers began experimenting with making paper from wood pulp from trees. In 1885, Maine had 12 pulp mills and 9 paper mills. In just over 20 years, the emerging pulp and paper industry grew so that by 1906, the state had 109 mills. This was capitalization on natural resources on a grand scale. But nothing comes without a price. These trees, these lands, these mountains were also home to wildlife of all sorts. These were open lands, wild lands, and these wonderful wild places drew sportsmen and adventurers. It wasn't long before some people began to realize that no resource is endless, and that these wonderful wild places might one day disappear, be gone forever, unless we learn to safeguard them and protect them. It took the insight of people who saw changes coming, and the efforts of people who knew how to make things happen. It took a man of vision. In the 1870s, this was still a young nation by most standards, barely 100 years from its birth, but the cities and towns along the Maine coast had grown strong and prosperous from the natural bounty of the land and sea, and through the hard work and perseverance of men like James Finney Baxter. Now, the first Baxters had come from England in the 1600s and had lived well enough, if not remarkably. But it was with James Finney Baxter that the family really began to leave its mark on the state of Maine. At the end of the Civil War, James Finney was a young man making his place in the world. A father of three, he had already made quite a success for himself in retail businesses when he happened into the business of canning vegetables. There was a nation to be fed, and there were fortunes to be made, and the Baxter Canning Company would do both. By 1871, James Finney was an unquestionably successful man with a wife and children, but the family would be devastated by the loss of his beloved wife of 18 years, Sarah, who, weakened from the birth of her last child, died in cold gray days of January 1872. James Finney Baxter was just 41 then, with a life ahead of him and small children to raise. So it came as no great surprise when he remarried in April of 1873. Mehetable Cummings Proctor would become the mother of what was fondly referred to as James Finney's second litter of three children. In November of 1876, a son was born, Percival Proctor Baxter. Now, when Percival was 6 years old, he posed for a portrait with his sister Madeline. More than a painting, this work, called Babes in the Woods, was a foreshadowing. Percival Baxter and the woods. He grew up in the city, in Portland, his father, for 6 terms, the mayor of that city. Where would Percy get his love of the out-of-doors? Well, listen to his father's mayoral inaugural address, 1895.
It seems to be generally admitted that no city with any claim to enterprise is worthy of existence which does not provide its inhabitants with generous park privileges. Someone has well said that a man may as well do without lungs as a city without parks. Nor are parks built for the rich alone, as in bygone times, but for the poor, who are confined a large portion of their lives within narrow limits, and to whom an opportunity, however brief, to breathe pure air and to enjoy the beauty of green lawns and umbrageous walks is a boon beyond the realization of the rich.
Percival was to learn many things from his father, that it is right and proper to love and revere the outdoors, and that all people have a right to the lands around them.
Percival's early life, he was very much devoted to the outdoors through his father. And there's a story told about him that when he was a young kid, probably about six years old, he was on a fishing trip with his father up in the Rangeley Lakes. And was kind of bored fishing, and his father, to sort of keep his interest up because they weren't catching anything, he said, well, any fish that you catch that's over 5 pounds, I will pay you $10 a pound for that fish. And bam, all of a sudden, Percy got a huge strike, and it was an 8-pound fish, so he ended up getting $80. And the joke was, all the men at the fishing club said, what are you going to do with that? And he said, I'm going to put it in the bank. And he did. And eventually it went over $1,000, and he gave it away to a conservation project. So very early on, he was introduced to the outdoors and had a great interest in that. He also had a very early interest in animals.
A love of animals. There was hardly a moment in his life when Percy's household did not include animals. At 9, he received his first dog, an Irish setter pup, and even his college frat house was not without a dog. When he became governor of the state, he posed with his Irish setter, Gary Owen, by his side. As governor, he worked for women's suffrage, for water power conservation. He governed the state until 1925, But that was just the beginning. Percival Baxter still had many things to do. He had an idea about the woods he loved so well, particularly the spruce and maple and birch that stood tall on and alongside Maine's greatest mountain, Katahdin. Percival Baxter had a vision.
Percival saw this with his father, and I think it instilled this idea of, once he had given up on his political ambitions, to devote his life to the charitable works, because he'd watched what his father had done.
With classic Baxter determination, Percival would do what the state of Maine could not. He would acquire, piece by piece, over the course of more than 30 years, more than 200,000 acres of Maine forests. He would argue and negotiate with the legislature, with Congress, with the Great Northern Paper Company, and with individual landowners, and he would come to own Maine's highest mountain, Katahdin.
Percival Baxter's philosophical legacy is not only the conservation ethic that he led the way in, but also what one person can do, particularly a person who has means and uses it for the public benefit. And I think that's a shining example he can give to people of today, particularly in this day and age when we have people who've made so much money, as to how they can use that to better the public weal.
Percival Baxter did not buy and hold these lands for himself. It was never about owning the land. He bought it to give it away, with an act unprecedented in his time or since. In 1931, Percival handed 5,960 acres of Maine forests, including Katahdin, to the people of Maine. In 1962, the legislature of the state of Maine resolved to designate these lands as Baxter State Park, and when Baxter had made the last addition to his gift, the acreage totaled over 200,000. He had accomplished what he set out to do. He had preserved these lands, this mountain, almost as wild as they were when white men first set foot on them. He had delivered them safely to the people of Maine.
Katahdin stands above the surrounding plain in grandeur and glory. It is certainly to Maine that we must turn for the most imposing mountain east of the Rockies. Even the Indians of the Penobscot recognized its dignity when they christened it. But who in New England knows Katahdin? Relatively few, even among the mountaineering enthusiasts, have seen it other than from afar.
Who knows Katahdin? Well, perhaps no one really does, but many have been drawn here, and many more have been influenced by its power, its mystery, thanks to generations of artists and writers who have come to Maine's greatest mountain and recorded their impressions on canvas, paper, film. The great 19th century painter Frederick Church was the first painter that we know of to capture Katahdin. He made 2 visits to the mountain, the first in 1856. His painting, entitled simply Mount Katahdin, stands as one of the greatest works of the Hudson River School of Painters. Many would come after him from Maine's own Marsden Hartley and contemporary painters Neil Welliver, Janice Anthony, Tom Paquette, to Jake Day, illustrator, animator, and creator of Disney's Bambi. Perhaps the people who know the mountain best are the Native Americans. The roots of their cultures run deep into this land.
This section of Maine and the Penobscot River is the ancestral homeland of the Penobscot people. For thousands of years, they've used this river to travel up and down this river, gaining their sustenance from the land. They had a special relationship with the land and all the creatures on the land. They believed that all things animate and inanimate had a spirit form. This is the basis of native traditions. In the center of this land, bordered by the Penobscot River and its tributaries, stands Katahdin, our sacred mountain. The mountain is very special to the Wabanaki people. Here, the Wabanaki people see the sun's first rays every day. It is here that Mother Nature reaches for the sky. It is here that the people gain their spiritual sustenance.
When we say the word Katahdin, we're saying greatest mountain. And that was said in reverence to this land that stood above all others. So Katahdin and its highest peaks would be reserved by my people as a place of great honor, like you would an altar. So that was reserved for our special ceremonies, places where we would go to seek understanding of the forces of nature.
Today, the Wabanaki people also travel to Katahdin to rekindle the old traditions of our ancestors and to gain that same spiritual sustenance from the mountain.
We've always heard of stories of individuals going up throughout the centuries, but today we honor it in a more formalized fashion where many of the members from the Wabanaki, people of Maine, travel to the mountain. We use a very special means of travel, and that is the same as the days of old. We go on foot and we go by canoe. We're traveling by the river, and our destination is a mountain. It's done once a year in the late summer, and we go to the mountain again to rekindle that spiritual connection.
Katahdin has never lost its magical pull on the people of the Wabanaki.
And then there are those who just love the wild lands that Percival Baxter preserved for us. Teddy Roosevelt hiked these paths, as have many sportsmen over the years, and fishermen and hikers and paddlers. Among them, another young man who would come to serve the state of Maine.
I was a little kid from Curtis Corner, and the highest hill I'd ever been on was probably 200 feet high. And to go to this mountain and to see this just tremendous, magnificent view, it was something, you know, a very exciting experience for a young kid. And I think that there are many people like me, many kids like me around the state and who will climb Mount Katahdin.
The kids who climb Katahdin today come in all shapes and sizes. Katahdin draws hikers and seekers from all parts of the globe. Some visit Baxter State Park for just a day or two. Some begin their trek of the Appalachian Trail here, but most who hike the trail go the other way. For them, Katahdin is the goal.
Well, I've hiked the Appalachian Trail 3 times in its entirety, and getting to Mount Katahdin is an incredible experience. You know, you see it periodically through the clouds at the different peaks, starting at around Sugarloaf, and then it just gets bigger and bigger the closer you get to it. And when you're right at the base, it's an amazing peak. It's quite impressive. You know, there's 4,000 feet of climb, and it's the largest peak you climb on the Appalachian Trail. There are actually peaks that are higher, but you climb more of Mount Katahdin, and there it is. And you know, when you get there, it's just this experience. You've been waiting to see Mount Katahdin for 6 months or 5.5 months, depending on how fast you hike. And you get there, and then there it is, and it's huge. And you've been hiking mountains all summer long, but Mount Katahdin is the most impressive of all the peaks. And I know many times you build something up and you're waiting for a goal, and then it's not quite what you expect. But Mount Katahdin is absolutely just spectacular. And then when you get to the top, you know, many people get emotional and cry. I know I was just ecstatic and having a ball. And it's a feeling like you can accomplish anything. You get to the top of Katahdin and there's nothing like it. And sometimes the day hikers look at you like, you know, what is going on with these people that are just jumping up and down? And it's very hard for a long-distance hiker that's gotten there to relate to the other hikers that have just walked up that day. But regardless of how you get there, it's just an amazing mountain, and I think it's the most impressive mountain in the eastern part of the United States.
Impressive indeed. Not just the mountain, the park, but the lands and the waters around, where fishermen tempt trout or salmon to the surface of Millinocket Lake. Or from beneath the fast-moving waters of the West Branch of the Penobscot. Where at frothing rapids with names like the Crib Works and Big Gamba Jack Falls, courageous hearts take on the big water once run only by fearless river drivers in sturdy bateaux. Far from any hope of help in an accident, they herded millions of saw and pulp logs downstream with little more than hand tools, muscle, and a surge of spring-melted snow. Back in the park, the fun is found by running the rapids a little differently. Each visit to the park, like each slide down the stream or each hike up the mountain, is a personal journey. Many people may visit the same spot, but each comes away with a different experience. Here, the pace of the fishing is a little more peaceful, especially on ponds where motors are banned. Besides the breeze, the only thing to disturb the surface on a calm day is the dip of a canoe paddle or the rise of a trout to the fly. At Dacey and Kidney Ponds, 100-year-old rustic cabins, bunks, wood stove, gaslight, spectacular views. Cooking done outdoors on camp stoves or open fires. Electronic devices such as radios and television, banned. You can hear again the words of Thoreau. I came to the woods to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, to see what it has to teach, and not, when I come to die, discover that I have not lived. Spend a night at Dacey or Kidney Pond, and at least briefly, you will have lived. The short, easy walk into Sandy Stream Pond is a virtual guarantee you will see some of Maine's wildest creatures. Moose reign supreme, gentle, hulking moose. The largest member of the deer family, a bull moose can weigh 1,000 pounds. White-tailed deer make the park their home also. Hunting is forbidden in most of the park, making it one of the largest wildlife preserves in the Northeast. At night, from every pond and lake, the haunting cry of the loon echoes off the mountains. Baxter boasts more than 175 miles of hiking trails. The reward for the climb up South Turner near Roaring Brook is a view few visitors ever see. The park has 48 separate mountains, 21 higher than 3,000 feet. Most have trails to their summits. But there's only one Katahdin. It rises sharply from the surrounding woods and lakes, forcing wind and clouds to bend to its will, often creating its own unique weather system. It can snow on top of Katahdin any month of the year. It can be a moody mountain, brooding, sulking in leaden skies, and then, as mists part, smiling, boasting its grandeur. Early in fall, while trees below are still decked in crimson, the snows come first to the summit and then slowly down the entire mountain. Winter locks Katahdin's secrets. Its flanks grow as frigid and unforgiving as any Arctic environment on the planet. Its wonders are revealed only to those willing to make the difficult trek in on foot, and only after special permission and proof of the necessary survival skills. By June, winter surrenders her icy grip on Katahdin, and once again hikers head for the summit. Many take the A-Ball Trail. It traverses the rock slide that came down in 1816. The steep ascent on the south side of the mountain is more about jumping from boulder to boulder than walking. Once up on the windswept and treeless tableland, the travel becomes easier. It is far from flat. The tableland is still a challenge to ankles and knees. On either side of the trail, alpine sedges and grasses thrive. In late spring, rare wildflowers, tufts of white diapensia, or the stunning violet bells of Lapland rosebay.
Although there are many species you would find on Katahdin, you could find in other regions, particularly northerly regions. There's one species that's found only on Katahdin, and that is the Katahdin Arctic butterfly. It is a subspecies of Arctic butterfly found only on the tableland. This butterfly flies at an elevation of 4,200 to 5,100 feet. This is a very harsh environment. The total habitat for the butterfly consists of approximately 2 square miles. This is a very limited area for a species. For that reason, the Katahdin Arctic butterfly is listed as endangered in the state of Maine.
At last, on top, hikers make the pilgrimage to the summit cairn, which some claim adds just enough height to make Katahdin exactly a mile high. Another popular route of ascent from the south is the Hunt Trail. It is the northernmost section of the Appalachian Trail. Before emerging onto the tableland, the trail passes through thick virgin forest along the pristine waters of Katahdin Stream. Here, the hiker may experience the energy of Katahdin Stream Falls. From Katahdin's north side, Chimney Pond in the Great Basin is the hub for hikers. It is reached by trail from the Roaring Brook campground. That's the main base for ascents from the northeast side. The Chimney Pond Trail rises gradually along Roaring Brook and skirts the edge of Basin Pond, which sits at the entrance to both the Great North and South Basins, glacial valleys carved by ice thousands of years ago. The trail hub and campground are located on the shore of Chimney Pond. Each winter, this clear, cold tarn is believed to freeze nearly all the way to its bottom, some 15 feet down. At the Chimney Pond Ranger Station, hikers sign in and out to keep rangers posted as to progress and situation. The shortest route to the summit is the Cathedral Trail, named for the 3 distinct stone spires or cathedrals. You confront massive boulders most of the way, but the views are ample compensation. Some 2,000 feet below, Chimney Pond seems little more than a puddle. Other routes up from Chimney Pond include the Dudley Trail up Pamola Peak. It was blazed by Maine guide Leroy Dudley in 1923. As the summit draws closer, the 2,000-foot head wall of the South Basin seems close enough to touch. Between Pamola, left, and Chimney Peak lies the narrow cleft called the Chimney. A trail once followed this ravine up from the pond, but a rock slide dropped 4 massive granite chalk stones into the crevice, sealing it to all but technical climbers. Along the head wall, bright streaks of newly broken rock mark the paths of recent rock slides. Renowned among Katahdin's legendary trails is the mile-long Knife's Edge. Just over a yard wide in places, one misstep can mean a fall of more than 1,000 feet on either side. In other places, the way is little more than the high line over a field of car-sized boulders. Several have died on this trail, including some who sought a shortcut down, deceived by what looked from the top to be only a steep slope, but in reality ended in a plunging cliff. Despite the danger, or because of it, the Knife's Edge attracts a steady stream of hikers. It is not for the faint of heart. A sudden change in the weather, which happens all too frequently, can turn a pleasant outing into a serious survival challenge in minutes. Along with being tough on legs and lungs, Katahdin takes its toll on the hands, which are needed frequently on the climb. The coarse granite scrapes skin raw in a short time, exacting a toll on the body of everyone who seeks the summit. Ultimately, a climb to the top of Katahdin is not just a physical challenge, it is a spiritual test. Rewards include views ranging 100 miles out to the horizon, and views as well deeply inward. Personal discovery. From the top, numerous trails lead back down. Each is different. All are difficult. One descends Katahdin humble. You have climbed it. Yes, every bone and sinew of your body reminds you of that. But you have not conquered it. Katahdin will not be conquered. It would be hard to find anyone who has seen its peak, who has explored its mysteries, who has walked through the winds in the presence of Pamola, and has not had part of his or her heart forever tied to this place. Having been with Katahdin, we are linked to the souls of all who have passed here before, and to those who will walk the lands in the future. We belong to it as much as it, thanks to one man's vision, belongs to us. What does Katahdin teach us? One of Baxter's successors as governor, Angus King, in his first inaugural, spoke of
the greatest monument to the foresight, determination, and generosity of one person, that exists in America, Baxter Park, and a magical place called Katahdin. Assembled painstakingly over 60 years and thrust into the hands of a sometimes reluctant state government, this gem of Maine stands as a testament to generations as yet unborn that we sometimes can, even as individuals, make a real difference in the world.
Can trails and forests be a gift? Can land be a legacy? Can a mountain belong to the hearts of people? Indeed, can the hearts of people belong to a mountain? Listen to the people.
I think, from my own point of view, Baxter Park is sort of a pointing of the way to what we need to do, probably on a larger scale, not just here in Maine, but throughout the world, in this sense of appreciation of what nature is, should be, and how we can best use it for our own purposes in ways that we haven't necessarily done before. The concept of wilderness is very strong these days, and the concept of its importance to the planet as a whole is very important. It's a new consciousness that we have, which is growing very strongly, not without a lot of conflict. And I think Baxter was the pioneer, in a sense, certainly here in Maine, to show us the way.
I admire Percival Baxter for what he did. I'm so grateful, and I think everybody in Maine should be, and everybody in the world if they ever come here. It was one of the greatest gifts to the state of Maine that any one person has ever given Maine, I think.
Well, my wish for the park would be that it continues to be and operate as Governor Baxter intended. Again, I think he was a visionary genius, and I think it's going to be very difficult to change his vision. And I think there are many people like myself who very much appreciate what he did and would not want to see any bit of the way this park was structured to be changed.
My hope for the future is that we can continue with the authority and the staff to carry out the objectives that Governor Baxter set aside over a 32-year period. He was so successful in getting the lands and developing the deeds of trust that it's critical that the park comply throughout the generations. Our facilities are in great shape. They're adequate to provide the recreational opportunity for those who love nature, willing to walk, who enjoy the wilderness. And if we can continue that role in the years to come, that would be my hope for the future.
Katahdin was here before us, will be here after. Perspective, too, it teaches. Percival Baxter presented his gift of unprecedented stewardship with these words: "Man is born to die. His works are short-lived. Buildings crumble, monuments decay, wealth vanishes. But Katahdin, in all its glory, forever shall remain, the mountain of the people of Maine."